Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gannon, alongside my partner, Jack McNicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. If not the chance, go check out our website, justsayingfootball.com. Follow us on Instagram at justsayingNoGWJS for article and video updates. And don't forget to check us out on Spotify at Just Saying Football. We love to be in your ears, especially because we're kicking off the playoffs this weekend, my friend.
Wildcard Weekend, man.
Wildcard
Three
Weekend.
straight days of playoff games. And
Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's a wonderful time to be a football fan.
And our teams play each other, which we'll get to in a little bit.
We'll get to there when it needs to get to there. A few housekeeping bits to get through. Congratulations to any fantasy team that won out there. Jack and I did not. I lost in the finals, and Jack lost in the losers bracket.
It's the first year I didn't get to the finals in any league, so next year, like everybody else who lost,
Revenge
I'm
tours.
Coming. Yeah,
Revenge tours. Revenge tours for 2023. Some great news. Damar Hamlin has been released from the hospital in Cincinnati. Has traveled back to Buffalo. Is now receiving treatment there in Buffalo with his family. Some rumors is that he might be at the game to support his fellow teammates. Just great news all around. Can't be more excited for this young man and his family. Yeah, no, you can't. And now with the Bills, they'll be at home in this game. If he's there, they are, it would just be such an incredible emotional push for that team, man. That would be insane. It's going to be great. It's going to be electric. Let's kick it off so we can get into that game at some point. We're going to jump into these Saturday games at 4:30 in the afternoon. We have the Seattle Seahawks making their way to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. This is a 4:30 game. It's the first game of the entire Wildcard Weekend, 4:30 p.m. 49ers are favored in this by 9.5. Over on here, 42.5. Now, San Francisco beat up the Seahawks twice this season already. This is the third time meeting, and Brock Purdy, the last time that we saw them play, I couldn't get enough of it, but we saw the double fake that ended up being a touchdown to Kittle. We saw him hike, fakes it to his right, fakes it to his left, come right back to the middle, hits Kittle right over the middle. It was a beautiful touchdown. Yeah, and ever since then, Kittle's been on a huge hot streak. We've seen like 3 multi-touchdown games, Brock Purdy's been playing great. He's undefeated right now, which is crazy to say, and he's got the number 1 defense at his back. The one thing I do want to point out about this defense, one factor that Seattle would be able to utilize against the number 1 defense in San Francisco is that Geno Smith is actually one of the more accurate passers on passes of 20-plus. So DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett's going to be on them to expose the San Francisco secondary and for Geno to get the ball out ASAP. But then you got a guy on the other side of the ball, Nick Bosa, leading the league in sacks, possible Defensive Player of the Year nominee. You also got guys like Fred Warner. You got Armstead. What else can they do, Seattle, to maybe edge them out? I think if you're Seattle, I think the first 3 opening drives the last time that they faced the 49ers was a 3-12, a 3-11, and a 3rd and 18. Yeah. You will not win many games in the NFL, especially in the playoffs, if your 3 first drives result in 3 3-and-outs and 3 3-and-longs. You just won't, especially against a team that's like the 49ers where their defense is fantastic and they have the offense to score points and change their game plan around consistently. I love what Seattle has done this year. I was shocked what Seattle has done this year. I hope that they retain Geno Smith and don't opt to go for a quarterback in this draft. I hope that they keep him around, sign him to a moderate contract, keep him in the building. He clearly can operate the system, win games, and get you to the playoffs. He just proved it this year. But I am locking in the 49ers. They've already beaten up on them twice this season, beating them 21-13 and 27-7. They're doing it with Mr. Irrelevant. They did it with Trey Lance at the beginning of the year. It's the plug-and-play Kyle Shanahan offense right now. Yeah. We saw him last year at the NFC Championship game. This team is hungry, and they're, to me, the team to beat currently in the NFL, the 49ers. I think that if they make it to the Super Bowl, there's nothing stopping them from winning a Super Bowl. Yeah, I agree. As much as Seattle's been a great story, I remember in the beginning of the season, me and Sean were both kind of like, we don't have high expectations for them. We don't know what is going to happen. We were still talking about, is it going to be Geno or Drew Lock? And now they're the 7th seed. But like you said, this is the hottest team in the league right now. We're talking a team with 10 straight wins. They finished 13-4. They started 30-4. This is a crazy team, man. They are stacked, just like Pete Carroll said. And I feel like the fact that they're at home, they're 8-1 at home on the season, which is unbelievable. Yeah, I like it. Let's keep this moving along. We have the Los Angeles Chargers making their way to the playoff Jacksonville Jaguars here. This is at 8:15 p.m. LA is favored in this one by -2 Over under here of 47.5. Now, what are your thoughts going into this? Jacksonville coming off massive 2 wins, including a win over the Titans, which knocked them out of the playoffs, gave them the AFC South division win and the playoff lock. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Jacksonville, 5 straight games right now. Doug Peterson definitely has created an opportunity here for Trevor Lawrence to flourish. You have Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, even Evan Ingram is getting involved in this offense. Now on the other side, unfortunately Brandon Staley had started Mike Williams last week and he got re-injured, so he'll be out for this one officially, which is tough. And it's going to lean on one of the best running backs in the NFL, one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL, and Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, and him are going to have a big day. I think that, it's tough because the Chargers, we want them to be really good. For me, I think Jacksonville is playing hot enough right now that, they're at home. This is a primetime game. This is the kind of stuff we've been waiting for Trevor Lawrence to put himself in, and I think that he takes full advantage.
Yeah, I had to pull out my phone because I had to pull up the Chargers injury report, and just in the hopes that for some reason Mike Williams isn't listed as out just yet. It's questionable.
Yeah.
But I'm reading through the report. Did not participate in practice on Thursday. Did not participate in practice on Wednesday. Did not participate in practice on Tuesday. Did not participate in practice on Monday.
And that's a re-injury, so if they win this
that's
game.
That's what you want to hear. Now, all this being said, I have been riding with the Chargers for years that they were going to be this playoff team. They were going to win the AFC West. No, they didn't win the AFC West, but they did make the playoffs. Now, here we are. I have to ride with the Chargers in this one. I love everything that Jacksonville has done. I'm a big fan of Doug Peterson. I love what we've been able to see from Trevor Lawrence the last few weeks. But to me, there's a guy on the Chargers team, and you mentioned it, but he just really doesn't get respect in the NFL, I feel like, as being a top guy in his position, and that is Austin Eckler. Yeah. I just don't think people understand how good he is. So on the ground, my man's had 204 carries for 950 yards and 15 yards. You're probably like, that's not great, Sean. Why would you do that? We had 13 touchdowns to back that up. And he decided, well, I'll have 107 receptions for 722 yards in the air for 5 touchdowns. That's 1,637 total yards and 18 touchdowns on 311 touches. Why he doesn't make the Pro Bowl is beyond me. Why we don't consider him one of the most elite backs in the NFL with the Christian McCaffreys, because he can catch out of the backfield, as evidenced by his stats, is beyond me. So to me, if Mike Williams is out in this one, like he most likely is, you got to ride with Austin Eckler in this one. Of course, you're going to be looking at Keenan Allen. They are going to be hoping that Bosa, who's been participating in practice this week, will be fully there, because we haven't seen a lot of Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, which is a really scary 1-2 to come at you. This is still a solid defense with the Chargers. It's not as great. They don't have J.C. Jackson. They were hoping to have for the entire season, but I got to ride with L.A., man.
Yeah, LA, they have a lot going for them. They have the 3rd best passing offense. They have the 7th best passing defense. So, they definitely know what they're doing on one side of the ball. At the end of the day, for me, they are the 28th ranked running defense. And
We're not going to talk about the run game here.
But Travis Etienne on the other side of the ball,
such a great season.
He has been going off. I mean, they traded away James Robinson, a stud, and they, who unfortunately has been dealing with injury, but they, Travis Etienne has just fully taken on his I'm Trevor Lawrence's running back role, and Trevor Lawrence is my quarterback. Like, he is just like, he's taking on this, and I love what's going on in Jacksonville right now. Last time we saw them, Blake Bortles was at the helm. Their defense was a little better.
They played this year.
Yeah.
In September. Blake Bortles was at the helm. Chargers lost.
Remember? No, I'm saying last time Jacksonville made a long playoff run.
Long playoff run.
And now I'm like, we were like, oh, it's this big start of this big thing. But Trevor Lawrence is like different to me. I just got to get – and the thing is, too, I got to say Jacksonville has all these guys that have just popped up. Like Rashawn Jenkins is a huge one for me.
Thank you.
I was going to say, 116 tackles on the season. 3 interceptions. He had that huge pick 6 against Dallas to seal that game in overtime. 12 defensive passes, a sack, and 3 forced fumbles. I mean, if you have a guy like that running around and, you have an injury, kind of Rashawn Slater's been in and out. I mean, you get a guy, in the secondary like that, you make Herbert make 1 or 2 extra mistakes. This is the playoffs. So I'm going to go with Jacksonville just to oppose you. I think we are both just going to have to sit back and enjoy these 2 young QBs like competing, because that is like what we've been waiting for, kind of what's going on in the AFC, like all these guys to hit their stride. And I think that, Trevor and I just think Trevor at home. If this was in LA, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with the Chargers.
No, I get that. All right. This is definitely, by the way, also our best hair quarterback matchup.
Yes.
These two quarterbacks have elite hair game also. So we'll be big for head and shoulders on who they're going to sign based on this game. Something to keep in mind. All right, let's keep this moving along. At Sunday at 1 o'clock, we have the Miami Dolphins making their way to Buffalo to take on the Bills. This is the biggest spread of the entire weekend. Yeah. Buffalo is favored in this one by -14. Over-under here of 47. Yeah, I'm going with Buffalo.
Yeah. This one's more simple. Skylar Thompson, is he the factor for you that kind of sets that? Like, obviously, why the spread went from 7 to 14 in 4 days?
It definitely is. We've seen that Tua definitely leads that team better than anyone when he's in that quarterback, and I just don't think that Skylar Thompson will. This is a playoff start. You're not going into Buffalo in week 4. You know what I mean? You don't get next week.
Yeah.
So to me, I think Buffalo is just ready for this game. They're going to have Damar Hamlin, like we mentioned at the top of the show, at this game. We saw what happened last week. Then Naheem Hines, 2 kick return touchdowns, including the one that started the game. So too much magic around Buffalo, and rightfully so, because this team deserves to be at least in the AFC Championship without question. I'm locking in the Bills.
And the Bills, we can't forget what happened to them last year, being up against Kansas City. Kansas City runs it.
Change the overtime.
Yeah, we were going off last year about that, and I think that there's just so much going right for them as well. They got 3 great running backs. Singletary with his first 1,000-yard scrimmage season. Then you got James Cook, who's been great as a rookie. Naeem Hines last week, getting 2 touchdowns on a kick return. You're going to be getting more snaps at running back this week. So
I like that.
I think that not much to talk about more in this game. Just maybe who Buffalo is going to play next. Buffalo's defense also, we haven't been talking about them enough, but they're definitely going to be a huge factor. And even if Tua, I think, was in this game, the Bills have been missing Von Miller, but the younger guys are really stepping up, like Greg Rousseau.
Yep, absolutely. And one of the things I do just want to say is that even if Tua was starting in this game, I'm happy he's not. He's still in concussion protocol. I just don't think that he could have started this week. And even if he was out of it, I think just for the safety of him as a young individual and to maintain his health, even if he was back, you couldn't start him. So I think that this would have been a situation that Miami finds himself in, regardless of the health of Tua, given the season that he's had with the multiple concussions. He's not out of the concussion protocol, but even if he was, I think they would still be Skylar Thompson's game, and rightfully so. I just want that to just be to be known.
No, that's a great point, and definitely just I feel like me and you, the fact that we've been talking about this, about how they've been handling it over and over again, it's like they, sitting him out is the best thing to do.
Yep, and they're lucky he's still in the concussion protocol, so he has to. All right, let's move this into our game of the week without questions, because we have the New York Giants making their way to Minnesota to take on the Vikings at 4:30. Minnesota's favored in this one by -3. Over-under here of 48.5. Now, our team just met just a few weeks ago, and Vikings...
a nail-biter.
And a nail-biter, and the Vikings have to win. So now I have 2 things about this game. Well, 3 things about this game. 2 things that aren't so important. One that is. And so I'm just going to go first, no offense. Because it's my home team, all right? That's why.
All right.
The first is I have a conspiracy theory here with the NFL and why they put it at 4:30. What's the bigger market here, right? Minneapolis or NYC? NYC, obviously. It's New York, all right? Who sucks at primetime games here? Kirk Cousins, right? The NFL just set up Kirk Cousins to fail so they can make sure that this New York City market gets untapped in the postseason, because they haven't had that in a while. So this is a money move, first of all. That's my conspiracy theory that I want circulated out there in the ether. The second thing is I did have a premonition about the Vikings the other day on the 11th. I had a dream that the Vikings opened up the series with a sack, fumble, touchdown, and then the Giants never looked back. So those are my 2 not so important things. What do you think of this game?
My thing is, I love a good conspiracy theory. I'm not like one of those guys. Like I just like one that I can't figure out, like a riddle.
I'm a riddle. There's more money in New York City.
The prime time. I mean, Kirk Cousins kind of screwed in the playoffs. Got to play in prime time pretty much any time he plays. Like there's no way.
Not that Bills.
Unless
Dolphins,
they want to give him a
1
o'clock. Yeah, I was gonna say conspiracy. No, maybe Sean's right.
We pushed the Bills out of a primetime spot in favor of the Vikings.
And I mean, what we're looking at here, it's when we get down to it, the Vikings, they got down and they did what they did all season against the Giants. They played to their strength, and they played against them and kept the pace with that team. That's why we've been talking about their point differential all season being where it is. It's just a very close one because all of their games have been close. And, it's one of those things where the Giants have been the same, and we saw that when they played each other. So I'm very interested to see. I don't think that we're going to be able to run away from each other. Like, neither of these teams are built to, like, win a game by like 30 points. Maybe the Giants against Indianapolis the other day. But again, they're being coached by a high school Catholic school head coach who's only coached like 3 games ever. So, for me, the Giants, they're on the road and they have a lot to do. But maybe, look, we were talking about conspiracies, maybe some superstitions set in for the Giants. Maybe they get back to Minnesota. They do everything the same except let Greg Joseph kick a 61-yard field goal. And the one thing for me, man, it's gotta be Saquon. Like it's all. Look, I'm literally repping the Saquon jersey. My man's getting 25 touches this week. This is how he has to get it done. Daniel Jones, man, I said get 20 touchdowns, and you got 22 with your with your rushing and passing combined. Does that count, Sean?
I think it depends on who you ask. If you're talking from a passing, if you're passing, yeah, sure. If you're standing from a passing standpoint, like I would say no, because he did have a 3-1, 15-5 touchdown interception ratio.
It's like Aaron Rodgers numbers.
But well, yeah, normally. But if you include them all, then I think you want to see just 20 plus touchdowns. I think from Daniel Jones at the end of the day, and he had one of his best games against the Vikings this season. He threw for over 330 yards. Completed like 70+% of his passes. For me, I think Dalvin's going to be a big factor. Saquon definitely will be a big factor. I'd even need to focus on him. His 25-yard touchdown on 4th down was what kept you guys in the game. You stop him there, all of a sudden the outlook of that game isn't a field goal, but maybe it's just we ran out the clock and won by 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you definitely need to pay attention along him. Now, one of the things that I was really, really impressed by with the Giants. They gave up 130 plus yards to JJ, and that's terrible. But if you paid close attention to that game, none of those catches were more than 16 yards. They stopped the big
except
plays.
for all the big ones in the fourth quarter.
Well, minus the one, but for the most part, but they kept him in check, and it was just him with the yak. You know what I mean? The yards after catch. So I think you're going to need to do that again. Now, if I'm Minnesota, the flip on that is, TJ Hawkinson had a big game the last time. Dalvin Cook will need to have a big one. Mm-hmm. And Adam Thielen, who has not been talked about, hasn't had a 100-yard game yet this season. No. You know what I mean? I think he's something you got to look out to. Now, personally, I'm locking in the Giants in this one. I'm Skull City. Love my Vikings. The thing that is hurting me right now is we're going to be down our starting right tackle. And he's just been so great. We are getting Garrett Bradbury right now. We're going to also be missing our second-string center just in case. But Bradbury hasn't played in 4 weeks. Our offensive line is just so dinged up at the most crucial part of the entire season, which is the playoffs.
And where's the only good point of the Giants?
The front seven of the Giants has been great all season. Now, Kirk Cousins, the last game, made throws that he had to make. He made the big plays in the pocket. Would I bet on Kirk Cousins twice to do that?
Ooh.
Probably not. That's not a smart bet on my move. So for me, I think it's easy to say that, but the Vikings have won all these one-point games and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. That's great. You start out 0-0 right here, and, you got to make the big plays, and I just don't know. 4:30 game. You're at home. The storyline sounds like it should be for Kirk, all purple, but to me, there's just something about it where it's a trap game for the Vikings. I don't know. It's all locked in the Giants.
For me, it's about what I obviously I'm going to go with the Giants because I think that they have a little bit of a flair under them for the loss last time. I think that Brian Dable, it's kind of cool to see him coach against division opponents, for example, where he's facing them twice. He's kind of had different approaches against division opponents in different games. And now when he's playing the Vikings twice, kind of the same mentality, don't show everything you did last time, but, show him some new stuff. But what Giants are you going to get? The ones that started 6-1, the ones that went 3-7-1 in the last 11 games. I do think with the playoffs on their mind, it's scary because none of these guys have really been to the playoffs. But the Vikings, they have. But this is the thing I think, you're
saying.
Why
it's a Brian Dable? It doesn't matter. Playoff experience.
This is primetime Kirk Cousins against Danny Jones.
I mean, this is the quarterback matchup that the entire NFL community wanted for the playoffs. Did we not want Daniel Jones versus Kirk Cousins.
Is that not this
Prime
generation's Brady Rogers?
Yeah, I thought it was. Look, we got a $90 million quarterback plan. That's what I'm saying.
We're about to.
And
we're about to have
God, if he gets $90 million.
But no, I'm going to go with the Giants. They're on the road. And, Daniel's been playing great. He had a great game last time. We got a couple of pieces back, less injuries this time on the offense. Bellinger's back. Richie James is back. So, scary stuff.
I like it. Let's keep this moving along. 4:30 or Sunday night game.
Yeah.
We have the Baltimore Ravens making their way to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Bengals favored in this one by -9.5. Over in here 40.5. We just saw this game in Week 18. And the Bengals kind of dominated that game. There's no Lamar. It's looking like
no disrespect to the Ravens.
No disrespect to the Ravens or that defense. I'm going with the Bengals. I just don't see how the Ravens can stop them. I love Lamar Jackson. I think that he is a starting quarterback in this league. I hope he comes to New York and play with the Giants. But the thing right now is that when he's missing from this offense, it's just not good, and it's not the same as other teams when they're missing their starting quarterback. Yeah. Because this entire offense is built around his ability to run the ball, and there's nothing wrong with that. When you don't have him, the guy that makes the it factor of your offense because it's a run-based system, it's hard to now operate because they don't have the weapons around Lamar in the passing game outside of Mark Andrews, where you can plug in, your Tyler Huntley or your Brett Hundley or your Tyler Huntley, your RG3 when he was playing with them, and just immediately have a successful passing game. So to me, unless the Ravens
just shows how Lamar is so important. You don't really, you're we don't really need a huge viable backup. We'll have guys we develop because Lamar's sturdy, but. We'll definitely talk about in the offseason about
I think they need to get him weapons because you can't keep running the. We've seen it time and time again with these offensive coordinators. You saw with Justin Fields this year.
I feel like they dealt with this in the playoffs last year, going into it and wondering if he's going to be able to play.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's just get him a wide receiver. Get him some wide receivers. Get DeAndre Hopkins, who doesn't want to be in Arizona.
I was literally just going to say that, and then I saw your eyes light up. I'm like, DeAndre Hopkins.
Get him
Brandon Cooks and DeAndre Hopkins.
Why are we doing this? Both these guys want trades. Come on, make it Odell Beckham Jr. You got to get him weapons if you want him to not get injured. I think if you're going to have him run the ball 20 times a game and pass the ball 15 times a game and then complain when he gets an injury, that's on you. So get him the protection he needs, which he has. Get him the pass catches he needs.
I'm picturing him with one of these guys. I'm like,
him with DeAndre Hopkins sounds terrifying, just absolutely terrifying. But I am locking in. I'm locking in the Bengals in this one. They're playing
even
great
though
too.
The Bengals are 9.5. I think that's fair.
I'll take the over on that one.
They keep this. Yeah, they keep these games really close in the AFC North, but they could definitely let this one slip away.
They won by 11 points the last time.
Yeah, and especially if they played Anthony Brown last week. They are playing at home. They're this is a still a very divisional game. You got Cincinnati. They are the 7th best running defense. So that shows me that they can expose what the strengths of Baltimore's offense. And, J.K. Dobbins, Kenny Drake, those guys are just not involved enough in the offenses without Lamar for them to manage the clock the way that the Bengals can do it with Mixon.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think, Mixon, semi-down season, I would not worry about it at all. Some injuries and that kind of stuff. The offensive line also with the Bengals have had some injuries and hasn't played the best at times.
One thing about Mixon,
he's going to be huge for this playoffs.
Though, I was going to say is last year I was all take Mixon unders and he's going to get a touchdown. This year, I still think he's good for touchdowns, but I honestly kind of like his over in a lot of these matchups. Even if Baltimore's the 3rd best rushing defense in the whole league, this dude is behind Joe Burrow. They're not.
You open up the play action pass with Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon. You open up this play action, it's just going to be over for defenses.
I don't even want to go into it, but I love the Bengals long term. I know I've been saying that.
We'll get into that in the offseason because they could win the Super Bowl. You don't know. All right, we got our Monday night football game and the last game of the Super Wildcard Weekend when the Dallas Cowboys make their way to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Dallas is favored in this one by -2.5. Over under here of 45.5. Now, these teams met in Week 1 to kick off the NFL, and the Bucs won 19-3. What are your thoughts coming into this one? First time ever in Tom Brady's career, he has led a losing team to the playoffs, which is crazy to say.
It's only Tom Brady too. We've seen the other terrible teams that because their division is so terrible they make it in. But the fact that it's Tom is hysterical. The fact that it's the Cowboys in the first round is hysterical to me as well. The fact that he gets to host a playoff game for having a losing record, that is the most Tom Brady thing I've ever heard in my life.
only he could get. Only he could work his way to an 8-9 record and still face a.
You get the second best passing offense in the league.
I know. Only he could do that. One of the things that I do want to say about this Tampa Bay defense that's been really impressive is last season we kept coming at them every single week.
Yeah.
Terrible passing defense, terrible passing defense, terrible passing defense. Completely turned it around this season. Ranked 9th right now in the passing defense.
Yeah.
15th against the rush. Tampa Bay still has a solid defense across the board. You know, it's their offense that's been the real question marks all season. We've seen some questionable plays from Leonard Fournette and Tom Brady. Some drops from Mike Evans that we just don't see.
Right, it seems like Mike Evans had a terrible season, and the fact is he's still at 1,000 yards.
77 receptions.
Chris Godwin, it was like, where was he this season? Still at 105 catches. It's like, where are the? But we know, we've seen it the last couple of years what Tom Brady can do when he has Godwin, Fournette,
and that's
Mike
why
Evans healthy.
That's why this game is such a trap
man.
to me. You know, because logically you want to go with the Cowboys based on how they've been playing all season. Now, I won't get into how Dak has been playing the last few weeks. You know what I mean? Maybe you got to take that with like a grain of salt.
We've been hating on him a little too much lately.
Yeah, it's playoff. It's the playoffs also. Like it's a little bit different. But I think if Tony Pollard and Zeke aren't bringing the juice this week, I would be very worried about this offense and how they're going to be able to pass the ball. Like, yeah, not to get too much into it, but like Dak hasn't played the best of games last few weeks, and he's the first player ever in NFL history to miss 5 games and lead or tie with the NFL for interception. So it's an uncharacteristic season for him because he's known for being high completion, low turnover rate, and now he has to go against Tom Brady against his defense that he played earlier. And they didn't move the ball well that week 1.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can see in this offense where you're like, no, there's a reason why we should be is there a reason why we should be trusting of this Cowboys offense?
Yeah, I mean, if CeeDee Lamb can get it done, Dalton Schultz definitely is one for me. Like, he's got a really tough linebacker matchup this weekend, but he is one of the only guys out there who puts up those kind of stats that he does. I believe that this year he had like 650-yard games, and like not a lot of tight ends were doing that outside of like Travis Kelce. So, I mean, the one thing that I'm really looking for the Cowboys, like you said before, is the run game and the cleaning up of the turnovers. Like, if Dak gives up anything, if he fumbles the ball because this pass rush gets to him, it's going to be a mental thing. And then Brady's got you, and he's going to go score. I think that the Cowboys, they need to be able to utilize all their weapons. They need Schultz. Right. They need Noah Brown, because the 9th best passing defense shows me that number one guys like CD are going to be just targeted and continuously stopped when they're targeted. I could see him having double-digit targets, but not nowhere near seeing him to have double-digit catches. I could see, Chris Godwin having a great game on the other end for the same kind of reason that like Trayvon Diggs will be on Mike Evans. But man, I got to say, Dallas 2.5. I always said I hate 2.5 because I'm like, that always makes me want to go with the underdog. And I got to go with Tampa Bay. They're at home. Tom Brady, man, I mean, this is I don't mean to keep saying it, but it's unbelievable that 10 weeks ago we thought he was out of the playoffs, and now we're sitting here talking about him being here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking just back to that, what was it? Was it the Rams game that he just had that epic comeback in like the last 2 minutes? And that's just what I envision kind of in this game almost, is like, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be low scoring, what is it? Over under here, 45.5. Mm-hmm. I'll take the under on that one happily. I just think when push comes to shove, you got a player that has to make a play in the moment that matters the most. It's Tom Brady, right? Like, that's what you think about. And I've doubted him time and time again, and he's just proved me wrong, especially in the playoffs. During the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, they shut me up completely. It's not to say that this team is the same team that's going to the Super Bowl, but I like Tampa Bay. I think the edge right now is also you're going into their own territory. If this was in Dallas, I might go with the Cowboys, but because they're going to have the home crowd, they get the Cowboys playing a few poor games. Brady's 7-0 against the Cowboys, 17-0 against the Cowboys. There's something about it. I like the Buccaneers in this one.
Yeah. So and Dallas, their season has been really great. I got to say,
Fantastic.
at
Third in
home-
sacks.
Third in sacks at home. They're 8-1, but they're not at home.
They're away.
not playing, and they're at a place where, the Bucs, like you said, they made a deep playoff run last year. They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. There's a team who knows how to win. What have we seen from Dallas in the last couple of years? Kind of the same thing. I don't know. Mike McCarthy, I do like more in the coaching advantage here.
I don't love Mike
But
McCarthy.
I don't say that in many situations.
I have a hatred of Mike McCarthy going back to his Packers day. He still beats me to this day.
Yeah.
He's on the Cowboys. I can't even catch a break from him. All right, everyone. That's all the time that we have. Thank you everyone for listening and for tuning in. It's going to be a great handful of games. I really do. Not to harp on our two teams here, but I do think that that's the game of the entire weekend.
Yeah.
So definitely tune in at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday for that game.
Absolutely. Yeah, get psyched. Giants, Vikings, along with all these other awesome games. Wildcard Weekend. Remember, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then next week we've got the divisional. So get psyched, because by the time we get through next week, there's only going to be 8 teams left in the whole thing. So
yeah,
I'm pretty
and
psyched.
the long wait to next season begins soon.
For one of us at the end.
Oh, God. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in again. JustSayingFootball.com, Just Saying Football on YouTube and Spotify, and Just Saying with no G, WJS on Instagram for all your updates. Thank you for watching.
Enjoy.